good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is you're listening or watching this latest episode of Turfcast podcast with me, Joe Redmond, and as usual, my good friend Simon Townley. How you doing, mate? You alright?
Very good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. How's lockdown 3 treating you?
It's alright so far. It's just one of them things now, isn't it? We've become accustomed to it now almost. But yeah, it affects everybody differently. It's just trying to get on with it, as everyone else is.
Trying to get on with it. It's day number 1 though, isn't it? You know what I mean? I remember last time, the first few weeks, I was like, hey, this is different. I'll take this. But 6-7 months into it, or however long it went on, it wasn't even that long, were it, to be fair? About 5.5.
You're still in lockdown. Still working in your kitchen.
Well, I work upstairs now. That's what I mean. Yeah, nothing's. That's what I was going to get to. Like at first, because there was so much changed. Like I suddenly wasn't working. I weren't even working from home. I suddenly wasn't, as a lot of people were. You obviously were the same as well. Suddenly, I had, I was going from working 6 days a week to doing absolutely nothing. And that's obviously why we decided to do more video and stuff on Turfcast, because we had more time. Whereas now I've started working from home, and I've been working from home for the last 4 months. So yeah, we are back in another lockdown now. But on my side of things, nothing's actually changed. I'm still just going upstairs to work. All right, I won't be able to go to some shops or whatever. But again, the only shops I've been to is Tesco, and that's still open. So and nothing much has changed. But yeah, how are you, mate, then, apart from all that?
Oh, good, mate. Just excited about, obviously, the news this week as well.
Well, yeah, we'll get into that. Obviously, the big news this week. In fact, you know what really annoyed me, Alan, if you're listening? What really annoyed me is we recorded our podcast last Wednesday, wasn't it? And we normally do it on Wednesday, don't we? So I guess last Wednesday night. And I went in and I was playing Call of Duty, and I got a text off. I think you said on the mark on Call of Duty, or I got a text off maybe Robbie. I got a text, or Jared. Yeah, somebody's like, oh, the takeover's gone through. And I'm like, what? I've literally edited. I were editing while playing on COD and trying to do like a million things at once, and I just had to do that as well. And I was like, it couldn't have happened at a worse time, because obviously we released it then the morning after the podcast, and it had zero chat of the Alan Pace takeover, the ALK takeover. It had absolutely zero chat of that in there. So we do apologise for that. But we were both, pretty much settled in that. We'd already recorded the podcast. There weren't much we could do, but to make it up to you all, this podcast is going to be pretty much 98% ALK and Alan Pace and the takeover and things like that. But before we get into all that, obviously I do want to start off by saying we are, of course, sponsored by Pitch Sport. You can see it at the bottom of your screen now. As usual, it is available in the App Store and the Google Play Store. It is sort of like a fan hub app where you go on and talk to other fans and things like that. Talk to other Burnley fans of other clubs and things like that. You can put your predictions in, put your responses into games, print your lineups. You can do all sorts on it. It really is a brilliant app. So if you haven't already, please do go and check it out. And if you haven't already, download it now, because halfway through this podcast, I will be revealing the next question that we have asked you from Turfcast Podcast, which is already on the app now. It's already on the app. If you follow us on the social media channels, you will have seen us tweet and promote the question yesterday. But yeah, it is already there. But before we get into the ALK takeover, obviously, no game this weekend. The weekend just gone. We were meant to play Fulham, or Fulham. Don't know why I said it like that. But obviously, they had an outbreak of COVID-19 in their camp. Now, normally I'm very sympathetic for things like that, but when you saw the news that, was it Mitrovic went out with a Crystal Palace player on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, whenever it was, and had a bit of a do.
Went out with Milivojevic.
Yeah, whatever. I didn't really have too much sympathy, to be honest, and I'm a little bit disappointed that the game was called off. Normally, if the game's called off, it's one of the things you can't do a lot about it. But when they're doing things like that, because I know people will use the excuse, oh, well, they're both footballers, so they've both been tested and things like that. But then, obviously, you would presume that other people would be there, I guess, if they're having a party and things like that. But what did you make of it?
I'm on the sort of sympathetic side still. I think it's easy to be pissed off when it's affecting your team, and I think we all wanted to play Fulham at that time. And let's be fair, Fulham aren't exactly shit as they were. Let's put it that way. Not saying they're in form, but they're not as bad as they were. They've sort of found their feet a little bit more than they had. So I don't think it was a guaranteed 3 points, but I do think that we wanted that game, especially after the Sheffield one, keep that momentum going. But it is just one of them things. I mean, more people than not probably did have entertainment round or friends round or family round on the Christmas periods. And I think Milivojevic, I don't actually know, I'm just guessing, but the similar sounding names might be from the same country or the same neck of woods at least. They might not have other people round us. You know what I mean? They might be on their own over here. Might not have the family here. So that might have been just two friends who thought they were clear getting together and obviously aren't. But I don't know the full details. So I remain positive that they didn't know they were positive.
See, I'm a little bit, like I said, I'm a bit annoyed about it. I just think that when you are a footballer, you have a certain level of responsibility to set a good example, and especially when things like that. Like I know I'm not saying he's done anything like criminal and things like that, because we weren't even in lockdown at the time. It was just like the tier system. It wasn't ingrained into law like it has been since midnight last night that you have to stay at home in the UK. I don't know. I just feel, especially because the game got called off, and then it's easy to point at that. I don't know. I feel like there should definitely be tougher restrictions for footballers that break the rules anyway. And I know the Premier League have since come out and said it's up to the clubs if they want to impose tougher fines and things like that onto players. But I just think that's basically the Premier League coming up and saying, we're bottle jobs, we're not going to do anything about it. You can do what you want. It's up to the clubs to do it.
Yeah. I think from my understanding that the clubs are, I mean, I'm not can't speak on behalf of Fulham, I don't know anyone at Fulham, but I'm speaking sort of in general terms of what I'm hearing is the clubs are sort of putting more out there about lockdown 3 than they did lockdown 1, because in lockdown 1 it would just do as you want. We don't actually know what the plans are yet. We don't know if they're going back. Whereas I believe that they are saying, listen, sort of, be careful this time because you will get bollocked if you don't.
Yeah, but it's one of them things, isn't it? Like, it was so new to us at first, this lockdown malarkey, whereas now it's all ingrained into us all and things like that. So it's a little bit more we've all got a little bit more of an understanding of what needs to be done and things like that now. But that's why we didn't play this weekend. And as you said, I think you said we all wanted to play Fulham this weekend. I was a little bit, in terms of the actual timing of the game, I was a little bit leaning on the side of, it's called off now, but at least in 2 or 3 months, when they'll finally find somewhere to reschedule the game, Charlie Taylor will hopefully be back, Robbie Brady will be back, Ben Mee will be fighting full fitness, and by then, you know what Burnley like in the second half of the season, we're probably winning every single week, so fingers crossed we're at that stage when we play Fulham.
On that point, you know what I was thinking this weekend? I thought, all these fixtures, we've only just got a United game rearranged from the first game of the season, due to both clubs having sort of a run in the fixtures and them in Europe and stuff. And then I thought, do you imagine if one club decides we can't play this FA Cup? What if one of them games this week is the FA Cup game between 2 Premier League teams, for example, that said, you know what, we've got a COVID outbreak, we can't play. Where are they going to put that game? When are they going to put a third round in? Because you can't put a third round in 3.5 months like they've done with Man United game. And when the quarterfinals going on at the other side.
Well, it's obviously it's a hypothetical situation, but didn't a lower league club, again, I can't remember didn't they have to forfeit a League Cup game? Yeah. So I presume the FA Cup will be a similar sort of thing. Like the league games, you can reschedule them, but FA Cup, like you say, if you have to wait 6 weeks, you're going to be 2 rounds down the line. You're just going to have to forfeit it, I presume.
Yeah, I presume so as well. But it just dawned on me because of the United game, the FA Cup weekend coinciding, and then. Interestingly, on that one, I'll put a thing. I actually thought, bastards Tottenham making them forfeit it. Yeah, they'll let them go through. You don't even need that another final. So fair play to them. But I thought it was tight as fuck making Leyton Orient come out because they need the money more than Spurs do. Yeah,
well, it was one of them, like you say. It's a few rounds down the line, and you know what you're actually going to do. I've only just found out that Man City won the game against Man United because you mentioned it then. So I thought I'll just have a quick check while I'm on phone while Simon waffles on. Did you watch it?
Spurs.
Did you watch the Man United City game just before we get on to the next point?
I watched the first half, but I was preparing for this in the second half, so I couldn't.
Fair enough. What was the score then? I just know that City won, obviously. It just said
they were winning 1-0 when I last checked.
Fair enough. Anyway, moving on. It's not a. Fair enough. John Stones.
Yeah.
John Stones.
I just checked that.
Fair enough. Well, while you check, I do quickly want to move on to the next thing, and it will be the main part of this podcast, obviously. The takeover's gone through, as we've just mentioned. Burnley now have a new chairman. Big up 2-0. 2-0 to Man City. Fernandinho, fair enough.
I'm sure he plays centre half as well.
Yeah, but yeah, as I was saying, the takeover has now gone through. Big up Alan Pace. Shout out to Alan Pace actually, because he does follow Turfcast. He does follow Turfcast on Twitter. So thank you for that, Alan. Thank you for the follow. But yeah, shout out to him and shout out to the team for getting it done. Personally, I'm very excited about it. And we will get your opinion, everybody's opinion soon on that. But I'm very excited about it. And yeah, first of all, very excited. First of all,
what's your shoulder?
What do you mean? What's that on your shoulder? Oh, sorry, the American. Yeah, I don't. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll notice it straight away. If you're listening on the podcast, head over to YouTube and have a quick look. I've got a little bit of a prop over my right shoulder. I just had to do that to see which one it were. Over my right shoulder, which is homage to our new chairman, Alan Pace. And what were it? I think I said $4.99 earlier to off Simon. But thinking back now, I think it was $3.49 off Amazon. Absolute bargain. Look at that. Absolute bargain. And that is going to be in the background of all my videos for the foreseeable until we, go on an absolute shit run, or Alan Pace leaves, or Pace and Darcy fall out. Then I'm going to put it in bin. Yeah. But fingers crossed that won't happen, because as I've said, I am of course very excited about this takeover. Simon, what are your thoughts? Initial thoughts before any of the stuff that's been said in the press conferences and things like that. Your initial thoughts on the takeover when we found out the news last week that it had gone through.
Well, I'm optimistic. I mean, I'm nervous because it is a gamble. Let's get that straight. This is not a guaranteed success. Just because there's more money going into it. We've seen it millions of times with other clubs where they've ploughed money in it and it hasn't been a success. And there's no guarantees that money will bring success. However, it does help. But on that note, I don't think we can lose. And the reason for that is, we've been on borrowed time probably before now, but we are definitely right this minute with this current squad on borrowed time in the Premier League. And if we are to go as with the current regime is, we've probably only got 18 months in the Premier League before we're either out of it or facing relegation in the face. So I think that, yes, it might not work instantly. We might actually still get relegated in the near future to come back up. But I don't think it's as big a gamble as other clubs have taken, because I think we are at that. We're not trying to push for Europe here. We're trying to get sustainability first and then push for Europe afterwards. You've seen it before where little clubs have put a lot of money in it just because they're trying to get Europa and Champions League places. We're just trying to sustain and grow. And that's my first sort of instance of it. I'm actually sort of excited for the chance now to put us footing in the Premier League and be taken a bit more seriously.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think obviously it's a bit of a risk, especially when they've borrowed money to buy the football club. But as we've said on another podcast, it's part and parcel of business. That's just what happens. But obviously Burnley Football Club's been a club that's been debt free for so long, so now fans are looking at that and going, "Oh, well, what's all this about?" But aside from that, I don't see it going wrong, honestly. And I know I'm putting my arse on a platter here, or could be putting my arse on a platter. But I just can't see it going wrong. It's like you say, because of the way the position that we are in at the moment, I just cannot, unless he comes in and says, right, James Tarkowski, yeah, all right, you can leave, seeing as you want to or wanted to, but we're not going to bring anybody in. And so and so's injured, so and so, Darcy, yeah, we're not going to buy anybody to replace all these players like you've asked, because that's the only way it's going to go wrong. But that's not going to happen. You're not going to buy a football club and then just not do anything. You're not going to buy a football club and let it deteriorate. You have yourself got some money invested in that, so you obviously want it to do well. And then just going back to some of the things that he's been saying on Twitter and at his press conferences, he's not been saying anything that would suggest that is the plan. Everything that he has said has been about backing the manager. I think a question was put to him this week in the press conference. Sean Dyche has recently been very frustrated with incomings and the transfer spending and expenditure and things like that. What are you going to do differently, sort of thing? And he just said, "Look, Sean Dyche won't be frustrated under me." He didn't say it in such a Lancastrian sort of like way of saying it, but that's basically the point of what he was saying. So originally I was excited. Then he's come out and honestly he said all the right things. And I know he's a multi-millionaire businessman, so he knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot, so he's going to say all the right things. But again, you just wouldn't invest in something, then say all them things, and then not do it. So, yeah, just going back to his press conference, I think it's fair to say that he is definitely, or has been, saying all the right things so far.
Yeah, it's going back to sort of like now where he's obviously done the press conference now, and we've got a bit of personality behind, because at the minute we've just been going on a bid. We could have potentially had a different owner 2 weeks ago. That's how little we knew, and then now we've got a personality to put to this bidding war, and I feel I'm not saying confident in him, because I think that it's all right. Say every chairman and every manager and every player comes here to every club and promises you we are going to bring success, and he can't. Not the 3 clubs have to be relegated and X, Y, and Z every single year. So I'm not saying I'm confident in him, but he ticks the right boxes. Now it's whether he can do it and whether he can actually run an infrastructure and create a brand, and that's my exciting thing, because I'm into stuff like that, as you know. But brand and marketing and taking us to a level where you might see someone who's never stepped foot in Burnley wearing a Burnley shirt. That's the kind of thing that excites me. And like, we watch MLS because we like the brand of MLS.
Yeah.
Not because we actually want to watch Americans play footy. It's because of the branding of it. It enticed us. And then I want to see that at the other side of the pond towards us.
Yeah, totally. Me and you obviously go on about this all the time, in person, when we can see each other in person, and of course on the podcast. And people will know that me and you both feel that the club do not do anywhere near enough in terms of marketing. Like, just even the slightest things, like the actual press conference itself when it was live, not being available on all these specific platforms, like just little things like that. And I know people say, "Oh, well, I pay for Clarets Plus," sort of thing. That's not the point I'm making. If you make such a big interview, such a big press conference that will be watched on both sides of the pond, like people in Salt Lake or wherever it is who know him really, really well and things like that, they'll have all wanted to watch it. So if you'd have streamed it live on YouTube and Facebook, just imagine the reach that could have got. And then all of that goes then to all these other people who have never heard of Burnley Football Club before, who then start looking out for the results because they're American and they've got that way into Burnley Football Club now through Alan Pace. Like I said, people from Salt Lake and any other connections that he may have, because obviously I don't know everything he's done in the past, but just little things like that. So yeah, it is interesting to see that he did make a comment about that, didn't he? He did say, like, look, I want to improve the marketing and things like that. So that is one thing that I'm excited to see as well.
100%. Why you put the first proper meeting with your chairman behind a paywall? I mean, I've got the service and I'm still whinging about it. But why you put it behind a paywall is baffling. This is not extra content. This is basic level shit. Do you know what I mean? Back in the day when we were kids, fans were invited to the first chairman sort of thing. Like the supporters clubs would have been able to send somebody like yourself, like Boundary Clarets, X, Y, and Z, would have all had somebody representing the fans in front of him to ask questions face to face. And this one's put behind a paywall. In the climate that we're in, where we can't go and see him, we can't get all the press there. I just think it's daft, man. I just think it's old school. It's short-sighted.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's short-sighted. It's a short-sighted mentality, and it's the case of, right, if we put this behind that paywall, we might get like another 200 subscribers now, and that's like that's like this amount of money, and that's all they're bothered about. And people will say, like, oh, I saw someone tweet this week saying, I understand why it's behind a paywall, because the revenue the paywall makes is an important source of income for the club. Like, no, it isn't. They're a multi-million-pound Premier League company. They will not make that much money compared to all the other stuff that they get from that paywall. Now, imagine all the money that's already coming in from people going on games. Well, not going on games at the minute, but you know what I mean, from the fans. Now, imagine that if we had more fans because we were more accessible to places like Salt Lake, and I'm sorry to keep using that example, it's the only one I can think of, because obviously he had shares or has shares in real Salt Lake, I think it were. I might be wrong on that one, apologies if I am, but just things like that, and then you can have more people buying your stuff, more people aware of Burnley Football Club, then you become a bigger brand, then more money comes in, and it's just, like you said, it is short-sighted.
This is it, and this is what's exciting, and this is what we want to do. We won't want to get too caught up, because I could go on for another 10 minutes now about how I would have done it differently. So let's hope that this is the start of it. And it's on YouTube for free now anyway. Again, I don't understand why you would make
if you're going to put it on YouTube for free in the end, put it on YouTube live and live on Facebook and things like that. It's just so easy to do that, and it annoys me how they don't. But it's one of them, like the hysteria behind the interviews all died down now. Like I personally didn't watch all of it. I went on it on YouTube a little bit, skipped through it, saw some bits. But if it was available live on YouTube, I would have watched it. Yeah, there pretty much the majority of it. But I know a lot of people don't have Clarets Plus. I don't have it. It's because I disagree with the fact that I don't think it should be behind a paywall. I don't think the club's content should be behind a paywall. I think it should be available, and for the exact reasons I've just said. So we'll have a look at some of the other stuff he did say in the press conference, because he pretty much said the right thing pretty much all the way through it. Now, before I do this, I just want to give a big shout out to George Poole on Twitter. Now, George is from the dark side. He's a No Nay Never podcaster. No, I'm obviously joking. Big friends with No Nay Never here at Turfcast. But George did a brilliant thread on Twitter of all the things that Alan Pace was talking about and all the things that he was asked and things like that on Twitter. So if you want to go and check that out, just type in George Poole on Twitter and you should find it. His @ is George Puddle. So I'm not sure if his last name's Poole or Puddle, but there you go. But there you go. If you want to check it out, that's where it is. But yeah, I want to go into his meeting as well, because he had a meeting with Dyche, didn't he? Him and Dyche were going to talk about transfer targets and things like that, and see where he's at and blah blah blah. But he, in his press conference, Alan Pace did say the meeting with Dyche went well. He says there's a big difference between his relationship with Dyche and the relationship between the previous chairman's relationship with Dyche. Is that Dyche knows he has the chairman's full support, whereas Dyche had to guess about that. So I read that a little bit wrong, I apologise, so I'll just repeat it. Alan Pace said his meeting with Dyche went well, and he said that the big difference between the relationship between Dyche and the relationship between the previous... Basically, it's the way George has written it. Dyche knows his relationship with Alan Pace is going to be a good one, because he knows where he stands with him, whereas with Garlick, he didn't know where he stands. So again, that's a positive.
Yeah, I like George Bill. He's on the ball with it as well. But yeah, so big shout out to him. The relationship is important, because I'm sick to death of hearing Dyche whinge about things like that on the press. To be fair, I don't think it's my least.
It doesn't help, does it? Of course, it doesn't.
It's my least favourite side of Dyche. Yeah. Let's put it that way. There's not many things I don't like about him, to be honest with you. There's probably the only one, but it's my least favourite thing about him, and not making subs. But he needs to have a relationship. This needs to move forward. It needs to be progressive. And at the end of the day, who was it that said it? It was Simon Jordan on TalkSport. When he made the reference of, not saying Dyche does, but I'm just saying that he made the reference of that managers sometimes forget their place. They think they own the club. They think they run the club. And Dyche possibly did run the club, and he probably did own majority of the respect of the club. But he needs to know that that's his employer. And Dyche is probably looking for guidance. He's probably looking for somebody to say, here's 80 million to spend next summer. He probably looked for that thing. And at the minute, he's not got that. So it's all right. Simon Jordan was referencing people not knowing their place, but I think he didn't know his place because there was no guidance there. And it's important to get that progression this time and get moving forward and understanding each other.
Yeah, fair enough. Continuing to read from George's thread. Pace said that transfers, which is obviously a massive thing, are going to stay fairly consistent for now, and by that I don't think he means absolutely non-existent. But he says Dyche can move quicker in the transfer window now. He stresses the importance on moving quicker in the window with more support over a bigger checkbook being available. A bigger checkbook being available. So he obviously wants us to move faster and better in the transfer market, not just doing what we did and probably bringing players in on the last day of the season last day of the window and things like that. So again, encouraging signs. It looks like he wants to get things done, and he wants to get things done quickly in the transfer market.
Yeah, it's massively important for me. I think that the last day of the transfer deadline is a negative. I think it drives price up, it drives panic.
Yeah, of course.
And also, if you lose a player in that time, it's even worse. I'm just talking on the buying a player. So I think get your shit done early, get the price that's right, and stop leaving it. My thing with Burnley is how many players I can't think of names exactly, but how many players It's happened loads of times where we've left it, decided to put a £7 million offer in, and then every other club's come in and put 15 million in.
Yeah, well,
Because
look at Cash. Look at the other lad who's gone to Forest as well, playing up front. It just happens all the time. It just happens all the time.
Exactly. So get your shit done. Get it in early. Get the right prices in, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to get Premier League quality under 10 million unless you're very lucky these days. You know what I mean? It's just get your prices in. If it's 15 million, unfortunately, it's 15 million. But staying in the Premier League is worth a lot more than that. And I'd like to see it. And January is a different window. January
it's
is
a difficult window. Is January?
Yeah, it's a panic window. So you might pay a little bit more in January, but if you're not prepared to pay that, you'll have to wait till summer. You can't just put stupid bids in because it's not going to work anyway. And all it does is it kickstarts everybody else to put their bids in.
Yeah, well, he does say in terms of the short-term ambition is a little bit different to the long-term ambition. I presume this is referring to windows as well, but he said the short-term aim is to deliver a good job in this transfer window and to stay up. That, to me, suggests that people are going to be coming in this transfer window, but I wouldn't be expecting £50 million players to be coming in. I think it's a case of identifying a couple of weak spots in the squad or a couple of bits where we don't have as much depth. Right midfield, obviously being the perfect one, and left midfield, pretty much the entire midfield. Where we don't have that much depth. Man, the centre midfield's all right these days now. Benson and Brownhill are doing really well, and Stevens as well, of course. Yeah, I forgot about him. So the wingers, I would presume, and maybe someone up front. So that to me suggests that somebody is going to come in this transfer window, maybe a couple of players, but with what he's just said already about the transfer window, like I've just said, he's not going to be expecting to bring someone of multi-million pounds in. It's probably going to be a decent championship player or an older experienced player in on loan from hopefully a top 6 club.
It could be however you interpret it. I mean, it could be saying, listen, we might spend a lot this January to stay up. We might spend, more than we will do in normal. We might go for more investments in summer by buying in, your championship players and letting them embed themselves into the club instead of forcing them in. But it depends how you interpret it. He might think, we don't know what he thinks is needed for survival, and he might go out and say, here's two £25 million players. I don't think he will, but he might do that, two £25 million players, but don't expect that to be the common starting point. He might be meaning that, or he might be meaning exactly what you said. We really don't know, and it's exciting though. It's a good.
Yeah, true. That is a very good way of doing it. I have interpreted it of a case of, all right, well, I've just come in now, just relax, bring someone in. But he might be like, hold on a second, no, there's £800 million, but don't expect this every summer. So yeah, exciting, really, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We've never been in this position before, and we're going back from being all owned by everyone local. From the butchers to Kilby. Let's go back to Kilby. I like. It's all right looking at Garlic at minute, but I'm a massive fan of Kilby's regime and what he did, and to be where we're at now. It's a new start, and it's progression, and it's innovation, and it's everything exciting that you need to do, because otherwise you go backwards.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think I've had a chance to do it yet on a podcast because like I said, the timing of the takeover meant that we didn't get to talk about anything about takeovers last week. But Barry Kilby has officially left the board of directors now, so he just officially has nothing to do with Burnley Football Club in that sense. So I think it'd be good for us to place our thanks on record to Barry Kilby for everything that he did, not just as chairman, but also on the board of directors, and probably giving Garlic a helping hand, and John B when he first took over from him.
And they're going to do now the next phase, and hopefully we keep that tradition and we keep that local theme within, because you can bring somebody from outside and make them local, but you can't just bring a full team of outsiders in and expect them to understand how we run. So if we can keep spoon feeding it and bringing them in progressively, I think it would be a nice way to do it. Let's put it this way: there's not many English owners in the Premier League, so it can be done.
Yeah, of course it can. Some of the other things he says he wants us to become a more ambitious club. Now, this is something that frustrates me time and time again. I do not feel the club and the fans. So if you're listening to this is you included. Like, just go back to last season, for example. Everyone was like, do you want to finish in Europa League or do you want to finish 8th? The majority of Burnley fans are saying, forget Europa League. Just stay up. Just make sure we're in Premier League and that every season. I'll be happy with that. No, that's the wrong attitude. And that is not necessarily the person's fault who's saying it. It's just because that's just ingrained into us as Burnley fans. It's just the way it is. We are not just talk to like the difference between us and Leeds fans, for example. And I know they're a very extreme example because the majority of them are Bellens. No, I'm joking, obviously. Again. Yeah, but it's like, what's the word? Delusions of grandeur. Now, I don't want us to be like that, because that's just ridiculously annoying. But it's ingrained into them as Leeds fans from a very early age that they are massive. They are a big club. They can go and achieve massive things. But to us, it's not. It's like, we're Burnley. We should just be happy to be here. We should be happy to be in the Premier League. We're a mid-table Championship club at best. So that's what annoys me. So I'm glad he said that. He wants us to become a more ambitious club, and the building blocks for that are already in place. He says if he's lucky enough to be here in 20 years, then the ambitions of the club will be far different than today, and that is what I want to hear. That is the thing I want. I want Burnley fans to be, yeah, we can win the FA Cup. Why can't we win the FA Cup? Yeah, we deserve to be beating Man United at Old Trafford. And again, going back to the Man United at Old Trafford game, do you remember on way home when that guy rang TalkSport and he was like, I'm just happy with it, Premier League, mate. Oh, get a grip, man. This is what annoys me. So yeah, that's good to see.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've used this example last week, but when Leeds get turned over against Man United, it's look how good Leeds played. They got absolutely spanked, and Burnley beat Man United, and it's Man United lose. And that is because we let them open them doors, because that sells more papers. And so they're going to write the titles that sell more. And if we all, sort of like you said, tell everybody we deserve to be here, we want to move forward. We're a Premier League club now for, what is it, 3 years on the fourth season now on the trot? And
fourth or fifth.
Yeah, fourth season on the trot now. And then that's established nowadays, and I think we deserve more respect, and we owe it to ourselves to make them see that, because we just make it too easy for the media.
Yeah. Another thing that I really enjoyed what he said. I feel like the reason why we are seen as this small tin pot club isn't because of the fans and the way that we speak, and it isn't because we've only been in the Premier League for 4 years, things like that. It's for me, it's a stadium. It's the way the stadium looks, because people see Watford as a bigger club than Burnley, and Brighton as a bigger club than Burnley, and Huddersfield and Palace and things like that. Like Palace, they've never won anything. They've never won anything in their history. And I'm sure Owen, the Everton fan, or one of the Palace fans that listens, I know there's a couple of Palace fans that listens, will tell me they've won something like a long, long time ago, and apologies if I got it wrong. But in my head, they've won nothing. The same with Brighton. But because Brighton have got a big swanky new stadium, and same with Palace, well, it's not swanky new, but it's bigger, and excuse me, in their case, they're from London, so that helps massively. People see them as bigger clubs. Now, the problem with that I have is, I'm here preaching about the turf and saying it needs to look better. I don't necessarily think it needs to be bigger. I think it needs to look better. I do not want to leave the turf. I would not want to go to like Network 65 just off the business park, just off the M65, and demolish it and build a brand new turf. I'd hate nothing more than that. I'd rather stay where we are. But the Turf Moor, for me, needs redeveloping. And I said it on Twitter this week, and I got shot down by a couple of people. It might not be a viable option, but I said it because I remember a few years ago, we tried to make Burnley Cricket Club move onto Fulham Rec. Now, I believe Burnley Cricket Club were up for it at the time, but the residents around Fulham Rec weren't, so then the council pulled the plug on the deal, and that would have been massive for us. Imagine all that space we'd have had behind the cricket field, and that'd have all belonged to Burnley Football Club. And there's all them sort of like residential homes and things after there as well, and eventually, I'm not saying like kick everyone out of their houses and stuff, but eventually, there's all that room that could be used, and I think that's what I'd like to do. Obviously, the short term, I'm not saying knock homes down when people are in them, but we could move the cricket club. But like I said, people shot me down on it this week and said that would mean, why should Burnley Cricket Club move and things like that, and I respect that. Obviously there is that side of the argument. I'm just saying, in a hypothetical situation, I would love it if we could move Burnley Cricket Club and expand into that space, because what Pace did say He says there are definitely improvements that can be made with the stadium, but stresses the importance of the fan experience being improved. There are improvements to be had, but it appeared as though it was more of a long-term ambition, says George. That's George's opinion on his thread, because I'm still reading from there. But for me, that's what I'd do. The fan experience, for example, like, don't get me wrong, I know they try hard and things, and I fully respect that. Like, they didn't have to set up the fan park and things like that. That wasn't there, 10 years ago, and I'm glad it is there now, because when we do get to go to the game, that is what I do. I go to the fan park. 9 times out of 10 I'll meet you, and I'll watch the early game on kick-off there, then meet me down on the corner and go on the game. So I am glad that fan park is there, but it could be a lot better, couldn't it? Like, and I know we use Man City an example, and Man City's a tough example to use in terms of comparison to Burnley, because also they have so much more money and so much bigger. But when we went to the Etihad a few seasons ago, they had such an amazing sort of like fan park, didn't they? Like, they had an outdoor football pitch there with like fence around it. They had a band on. They had interviews, like a massive screen and someone on stage chatting. And that's obviously Burnley aren't Man City. I know that. That's not what I'm saying. But we could take things like that. Why don't you get somewhere for the kids to play football and have like a couple of stewards out there making sure no little kiddie farts break out? Why don't we have a mini sort of like, I know we have the little 2BR tent and stuff, but like a better sort of experience of that. Like, have a stage, have people being interviewed on there, not just 2BR blasting out some ridiculous tune from 1960s. No, 2BR don't even exist anymore, does it? So what even would it be now? I don't know, but yeah, it's one of them. But it's good to see him say that, definitely, because I think the fan experience could definitely be improved.
I'd agree, and I know the stadium manager, and we had a few meetings when I were in the disability thing, and he used to say to me all the time about like wanting to improve that, and he was like wanting 2 screens instead, and we got 1. I know that much, but he wanted 2 screens, and he wanted all this sort of these ideas, and I thought, I'd just presume the money wasn't there, because every time I spoke to him, it was happening, and then it just never happened. So I presume maybe now, if he says I want a second screen in that corner, and I want wacky inflatable arm flailing 2 men behind the goal every time we score, and I want pyrotechnics, it'd probably get a tick to make it that way. I mean, I don't want to go full NFL on it, but it'd be cool to get some of that shit over here, I must admit.
Yeah, definitely. I just think certain things, like the half-time, I nearly said half-time show, but the half-time experience, like, going back to the games, I can't remember. We didn't do anything, did we? Like, going back to recent games, I know it's nearly been a year now since we've been on a game, so apologies if my memory's again wrong. But I don't remember us having pretty much anything for half-time apart from Townley Year 7s against Gawthorpe Year 7s on pitch in Jimmy Mack corner. You know what I mean? What's that? No, I don't want to watch that. But I did find myself watching it, eating a Mars bar, because I don't know what else better to do. But someone tweeted it recently, bring pie and peas back, and I disagree with that. I think bring sumos back. Do you remember the sumos? They were class. But we had so much better things back in the day for half-time, and that's another thing that could be improved.
I used to love it when they had that Bertie versus Deepdale Duck assault course.
Yeah, that was class, that, weren't it? I remember that.
Bring that back. Get their mascots up here and have a race against Bertie.
Yeah, that'd be class. A weekly mascot in the Premier League as well. Can you imagine seeing that West Ham Hammer running after Bertie?
What about West Brom's Boiler?
Oh, God, yeah. Is that still going? Or it's just been a sponsorship for a week?
It is a sponsorship thing. I don't think it's their actual sponsor, but he walked around for a few games, didn't it?
Yeah, I do remember it a little bit.
Actual mascot, though.
Yeah. An interesting one, he was asked about staying in the Premier League this season. He says, of course it is important, but stresses that it is not essential. He says, going to the Championship can be like going to make an artsy movie sometimes. And then George gives his opinion after that. We're going to read it out, but I'll leave that one for the No Nay Never boys. I don't want to take everything from them. But yeah, and girls, obviously, shout out to Natalie. But yeah, it's good to sort of like see him not... It's obviously we all want to stay up, don't get me wrong. But it also, that to me suggests that if we do go down, he's not going to panic, which is also a good thing.
Yeah, it shows that his understanding of where we are and what we're about, for me, that says. I think he's not coming in here to do a flip and put 200 million in, keep us up, probably finish 10th and then earn a bit of money on it. I don't think he's in here for the quick turnaround. I think he's here for the longevity, and I think that just states it for me. That makes it clear that he knows that there's a risk of it. and he's prepared for it.
Yeah, fair enough. I just want to go back to something we were talking about earlier because I've just seen a tweet on George's thread. We spoke about Garlick and John B staying on the board of directors and sort of like advising Alan on the club and things like that, and we said it was good to see, but he has shared his thoughts on that. He says it's crucial to have advice on the board. They have put the building blocks in place for him to do that, and he says if he comes in with a new slate, it would just be easy for them to make stupid decisions. Obviously not intentionally, I would presume, but he could easily make decisions that don't reflect the club, don't reflect the community, which is obviously both a massive part of this football club. So it is good to see that he's keeping them on board, but we have already said that, to be fair.
Yeah.
Just going through the thread again, one more thing that I found interesting, and this is probably something that won't happen for a while, I would presume, but it's something that I've wanted us to do for quite a while. And I think we dabbled in it before, but he did say he doesn't want to share too much. Excuse me. He doesn't want to share too much information about it now because it's very early days. But ideally, they want a partner club within Europe. In what manner that is, George says he didn't say, but hinted at a Chelsea sort of like agreement that they have with other clubs, and he stresses the importance of player development. So I presume that'll be something where we bring a player in like Ben Gibson. He isn't getting game time, so we send him on loan to another club. I think I had Matty Loughton on the podcast last year, and he was sent out to, I think it was Rapid Vienna on loan. Apologies if I got that wrong. I can't remember exactly what it is, and that's because him and Villa had a partnership.
I don't think it was there. I think it was a team I don't think I've ever heard of. I don't think it was as big as
now you mention it, I think it was a team I hadn't heard of.
Yeah, I don't think it was as big as Rapid Vienna, but I do think that when I listened to his interview, there was a few factors in there. The two main factors were that if we can get a player in that isn't quite ready yet, but he wants to play football, then we have an option to give him to keep him happy whilst we develop the player. Secondly to that, it spoke about Brexit and importing of players need to find other avenues sometimes to do that nowadays, and basically like get work permits, might need to play in Spain for a year before they can come in, for example. So I think that probably goes to out of Europe players. So whether that's Americans, Africa, Australia, China has a big market now. The China were mentioned in the interview as well. So
yeah, it's good to see these sort of things mentioned, isn't it? Like, I don't think I've ever heard the word China mentioned in a Burnley press conference before, so that just already shows that we're expanding our market and things like that. But that's pretty much it for the Alan Pace part of the press conference. But just before we do wrap it up, what were your thoughts on the press conference then as a whole? I know we've just gone through it there, but again, he just said pretty much all the right things. And it's easy just to sit there and say, oh, he's saying it all right. But obviously, we at Turfcast pride ourselves in being able to criticise things and the club like we just have done in certain aspects when we don't think they're getting it right. So you know that we would say that if we felt that he was being a little bit eccentric, being a bit over ambitious, but I think he's coming across really well so far.
He's come across very likeable, sort of looks like a normal human being that's just done well for himself, successful in what he does, doesn't look uppity or above his station, isn't coming in here telling us what to do, almost saying that he wants to learn how we do it and then help us get further. I mean, he said everything right. The proof is in the pudding now because he's put himself on a good foundation.
Yeah, well, just a reminder before we do move on, the new Fan Town question is on the Pitch Sport app now. If you want to pause the podcast, please feel free. Head over to the Pitch Sport app, answer the question, and let me know whether you are excited or nervous about the ALK takeover. But it's happened. Alan Pace is our new chairman. It's official. He's the chairman of Burnley Football Club. Now, small matter of an FA Cup third round tie at Turf Moor this weekend. We are playing MK Dons. I've already been on the MK1 podcast, so you can catch it tomorrow morning, I think, on your, well, be today for you boys, won't it? If you're listening on Thursday, you can catch it now. It's available on iTunes and things like that, so please go and check it out, where I speak to an MK Dons fan who is feeling quietly confident. for whatever reason, he went. He mentioned that our pitch is a good pitch, and he thinks that will help them because most pitches in League One are dreadful, and they try and play attractive football. No, they're not doing too well in the league this season. They're not like knocking on the other players or anything. I think they're in 16th. So for me, it's one of them. I know we'll change the team around. I know we'll probably have Kevin Long. And Bailey and Jimmy Dunn, maybe Benson, in the middle, maybe Glennon, it's Vidra maybe if his back problem, we'll get it. Again, I don't know if that's a real back problem or he just wants out because the back problem didn't come too long after his agent's whinge in the media, but that's another debate that we'll have maybe another time. So we'll change it up a lot. But with full respect to MK Dons, we should be in a position where our B team should comfortably beat a League One side at 16th in the league. But are we in that position at the minute because the squad has been not invested in that heavily in recent years? Is our B team strong enough to beat MK Dons? What are your thoughts on the upcoming game?
An actual 11 versus 11 B versus A, definitely not good enough. But our B team is half of an A team anyway. You know, your strikers... Your strikers are your first choice. Your centre back will be Tarky, I imagine, and then you're probably going to play a Corky if he's fit, a West there in midfield. So there is a half of an A team. So yeah, I do think that it's more than capable of beating MK Dons. In fact, I dare say it should be a 3-0 plus. However,
I think we said that before the Barnsley game last season, didn't we?
However, experience tells me that we are going out 1-0 via a penalty, and then they'll play Blackburn in next round or something daft like that. It's just the way that our FA Cup life has been since Spurs. What were it? No, that was League Cup, weren't it? When were the FA Cup one? We did right well. We went Derby County and all them like Christmas. I remember that were a good one.
Didn't we get beat by Watford in quarterfinals?
Quarterfinals, that were it. Played Coventry on that route as well, if I remember rightly, I think.
Yeah, we did. I went to Harfield Road and watched us beat Coventry in that cup run.
Yeah, fantastic. Them days made me...
I'm remembering, I don't think that's the same year, it might be, but I don't think that's the same year. But yeah, they were Watford who beat us. I always remember them scoring a brilliant free kick. I can't remember who scored it, but they scored a brilliant free kick to either make it 1-0 or 2-0. And I remember and I just remember just thinking, that's it now.
I got that. I got to Watford. Didn't make it to match.
You break a bone by any chance?
I'm in MLM still hospital. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't get to match. Unfortunately, it broke my arm, snapped it. But but them days made me the Burnley fan I am today. Them cup runs, that excitement, that sort of buzz about the town and the club and the media and everything, because we were lower leagues then. The third tier at when I started seeing us on his first cup runs.
Yeah.
And that was buzzing. That was so good to see. And now we're in the Premier League. You think, well, we always play the big teams now. Yeah, we do. But we could actually go on and win a cup if we took it seriously. If we had the investments in as B team, as we're calling it, we could be pushing. I'm not saying we should win it, but we could be pushing to try and win it, to get the quarterfinals, semi-finals, get that excitement back. Brentford have just done it.
Just going to say Brentford just got to the semi-final at League Cup. So I think the problem is now with the cups is there's this thing that the Big Six don't take it seriously, but they do. If you look at the last winners of both cups, the last 10 winners, I think there's only Swansea in the last 10 years that ain't a Big Six club that's won it, or a certain amount of years anyway. Again, don't quote me on that, but again, even the year that Swansea won it, they beat Bradford in the final. So you know what I mean? It's just there were two clubs there that were lower leagues. I think Swansea were Swansea were a Premier League team at the time, but they weren't a good Premier League team. And obviously Bradford were in League Two. But we should be at least getting to fifth round quarterfinals. You know what I mean? But we're not.
Yeah,
every single season, it's third round.
Maybe winning it is being ridiculous, but we should be definitely having a run every season where you tease yourself, thinking, fucking hell, we're doing well this year, might win it. Yeah. And then we're out, but we're not even getting that. We're not even getting the build-up.
No, fingers crossed we can do it this weekend, though. Quickly, score prediction then for the MK Dons game?
3-0 Burnley.
Even though you've just said, I know it won't happen.
Because that's what should happen.
I'm going similar to last season. We'll we'll make it hard, but we'll get through, and then probably get Man City in the next round as a set piece. But I'm going 1-0 Burnley, a late goal when we're all thinking, oh, apologies, I just dropped something. Thinking, oh, fuck's sake, here we go. But yeah, fingers crossed we can get it done. But yeah, that's it, unless there's anything you want to add.
No, I'm good, thanks. But yeah, thanks for having me. Exciting times. Exciting. Welcome to the Yanks. Welcome to Alan Pace. Thank you very much.
Yeah, definitely. So that's it from me. That's it from Simon as well. If you want to, if you're listening on the podcast and you want to watch it on YouTube, please feel free to head over and follow us on YouTube. It's just Turfcast Podcast on YouTube, Turfcast Podcast on Facebook if you want to follow us on there, Turfcast Podcast on Instagram, and Turfcast Podcast, of course, on Twitter. They are all on the bottom of your screen now if you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. But thanks, and we will see you. I'm not sure if we're going to do a watch-along for the FA Cup because it's the FA Cup. So we'll see you. Well, Simon's put his fingers up, so he's nailed his colours to the mast. We might get a watch-along B team in. Kieran Phillips, if you're listening, you can do it with all your mates. No, I'm joking. But yeah,
Oh,
you can do it.
Can I give a shout out?
Go on.
I got a text. I don't even think he's a Burnley fan. Not gonna lie. Let me just. He basically walks his dog, and he basically said that he listens to the podcast, and he actually really enjoys it. But he's not a Burnley fan, so I'll shout out to Jason Young. He messaged me saying he listens to it on his dog walk, so I said I'd give him a shout out.
Who does he support? Who does he support?
I don't know. I'm sure he's from down south somewhere, but I think he's somewhat daft. I think he's a Spurs fan, you know.
Somewhat daft, like a Spurs fan.
Yeah, somewhat daft. I can't remember now. He did tell me though. He has told me, but apologies if I've forgotten. However, shout out because he listens to us just because he credits his haircut with me. But he said he enjoys it now, so he listens to it on his dog walks.
Right, well, there you go. Shout out to Jason Young if you're listening, which apparently you are. But there's a few people that aren't Burnley fans that listen. I know I mentioned Owen a few times. I've already mentioned him in this podcast. He's an Everton fan. He listens. I know there's a Crystal Palace fan that listens. And there's been some others that have dipped in and out. I remember a Watford fan listening for a little bit and things like that. So it's good to see. It's all about the football community, though, innit? And things like that. I have listened to a Sunderland podcast before. I've listened to a Watford podcast. An Everton one and things like that, so it is good to see. But yeah, that's it from me. That's it from Simon. And if I don't see you for watch along, in fact, I've just remembered I'm doing a what's it called? Match preview. I will be doing a match preview for the MK Dons game, so you will see me for the match preview. Probably available on Friday night on the Facebooks and the YouTubes. So yeah, look out for that. But we probably won't be doing a watch along. I'm not going to lie. So if we don't see you for that, and you don't join us for the match preview, is what I meant to say, not match reaction, match preview, then we'll see you for the podcast next week on Thursday. Same time, same place. We'll see you there.